Hello and welcome to the tutorial, the worship choir tutorial for the song Death Was Arrested by North Point InsideOut, based on the recording from their album Death Was Arrested. This arrangement is available at centeredworship.com, where you can get a copy of this sheet music for yourself or for your choir. Alright, I'm going to take it section by section, beginning with the intro. The intro into the verse are ms. Wrong key. Providing a kind of warm, ethereal synth pad kind of sound. Now you'll notice I have written here from nothing and a crescendo moving up to pianissimo. So the idea here is you want this to be very, very quiet, where when the song starts, they're not quite being heard yet, but in a couple measures they're starting to be heard a little bit, and then the sopranos take over this high part that kind of moves just a little bit. Make sure if you listen to the recording, it is mirroring that part in the recording, and it's just kind of in the background, adding a Starry Night kind of sound. So at least my aim when I was writing this was that the sopranos would match that kind of feel. Moves into the verse. They're still providing that kind of ethereal sound. You get to the first ending right here, and it jumps to verse 2, and the choir switches to ooze, which opens it up a little bit more, makes them a little bit more heard. Then the ms get buried very easily. Now, I would suggest that if you are changing up your own arrangement that you're doing in your church from the recording, and there's a lot more going on instrumentally, then let it be louder than pianissimo. Let it be a mezzo forte or something like that. If you have a synth player, I would suggest working with them so that they don't drown out or are overly redundant with what the choir is doing. Let the choir, this is voices doing this kind of thing sound really unique and really beautiful and really inspiring. And on any song, you can have a synth do parts like this. But it's not every song that you can have the choir do this. So don't let a synth part overpower what the choir is doing in this, because I think it's really nice. So in the verses, they kind of take a background part. On the chorus, they take over the foreground, singing the melody in octaves. And I would suggest, interpretation-wise, on all of the choruses, whether it's this one or the ones later where it's 4 parts, I would suggest, and I try to communicate this both with the marking here with conviction and with the phrasing, the slurs written over top of the melody in the chorus, that it's very much a testimonial kind of song. You're telling a story. This is my story. It means something to me. It's real to me. I want to tell you about it. I want to celebrate it. I really love it. And you want to communicate that in the way that people sing it, in the way the choir sings it. So let it be, I was going to use the word mushy, but I don't mean mushy rhythmically, or in enunciation. I mean mushy in sentimentality kind of way, in the mood. Let it be sentimental. Maybe that's a better word, sentimental. Oh, your grace so free. I would even allow, if I were directing it, a little bit of sliding. Oh, your grace so free. Just a little bit, so free. Obviously, you don't want to get carried away with that in the choir. But maybe let a couple vocalists do that. Maybe just your lead vocalist does that and your choir nails those notes right on. I don't know. But you want to communicate that kind of sentimentality and that river flowing kind of mood. Washes over. Let those phrases swell. Washes over me. You have made me new. Now life begins. Let them swell like that. Oh, it'd just be beautiful to hear a choir doing that. All right, verse 3, self-explanatory, everybody covering the melody. I have the sopranos written in there. You might have the sopranos come down here where the altos are if you don't have sopranos that can hit those notes nicely without having to belt them out hard and loud. I would say with all of the arrangements on Centered Worship, they are flexible, and when I write arrangements, I don't expect those who are playing or singing them to have to do them as written. I actually value an artist's intentional contribution and personal creative contribution to what I've started doing. I view it in that way as a kind of journey. I started the journey, here it is on paper, but you finish it. And in your context, there might be some practical reasons for changing something, but you might have some creative ideas too. In either case, what's on the page is a guideline in that sense. And obviously there's copyright issues, you can't change the lyrics or something like that. But making slight alterations maybe to the harmonization or the interpretation or something like that, feel free to do that if it makes sense for your context. Okay, in this verse as well, it splits halfway through into parts. My shame was a ransom he faithfully bore. Call me his friend when death was arrested. It's starting to build here, but it's not as big as verse 4 yet. So keep it warm. Don't let the choir naturally think that just because we split into parts, it's supposed to be forte all of a sudden. Make sure they're staying at a mezzo forte, and that the parts are just providing a kind of fullness of sound, but not necessarily a wall of sound. When you get to the chorus, these harmonies are so beautiful, and with a song as melodic and as flowing as this one, it's just so beautiful hearing the choir cover a part like this. And so just let them relish it, and you as a choir director, relish it. I think if your choir's relishing it, that's going to get you the sentimentality you're looking for. Oh, your grace so free. Oh, it's just beautiful. Let them hear themselves. Let them relax. It's not like another part where it's real percussive, where you need to nail every rhythm down to its thousandth of a part. This isn't like that at all. A kind of a freerness to it is really appropriate, and so just let them relish it. When we get to verse 4, it starts out quietly with just the ladies, then it adds the men, and then but then Jesus arose with our freedom in hand. Man, go to town there. Let that be a sledgehammer. Every one of those notes is a sledgehammer on an anvil, pounding that truth in. But then Jesus arose with our freedom in hand. That's when our death was arrested, my life. The soprano notes up there on that F sharp, just let them belt that out. Even if they're covering everybody else up in the room on that F sharp, just let them have it. That's their moment to shine. So it goes back to the chorus, then it jumps here to the bridge. Oh, we're free, free, forever we're free. Here's where rhythm, I think, it gets a little bit more important. There's accented notes and rests. Let those words free almost sound like shouts. 'Cause we're free, free, forever we're free. Come join the song of all the redeemed. Yes, we're free, free. The song's really a lot of fun. You might have trouble with your choir if they're not used to singing syncopated 16th note rhythms at the Come Join the Song of All the Redeemed. Come join the song of all the redeemed. Come join the song of all the... Okay. I would suggest, if your choir's having trouble with it, of all the redeemed, switch that to just straight eighth notes. We're in 6/8. All the redeemed. So it sounds like, come join the song of all the redeemed. Yes, we're free, free, like that. In fact, even if your choir isn't totally struggling with it, but they can't do it tight, not everybody's nailing those rhythms, then toy around with this straightening out of the rhythms. Come join the song of all the redeemed, yes, we're free. It sounds, when I'm saying it by myself, it doesn't sound all that interesting. But when you've got a choir straightening it out like that, it doesn't sound as bad as you might think it would. It actually sounds kind of nice to hear a big choir, a lot of voices straightening it out like that, and then maybe even if you have a lead vocalist over top, like a worship leader, they're doing the more syncopated rhythms, it still works. I'm enjoying the song of all the redeemed, while the worship leader's going, all the redeemed, yes, what? And it still works. So don't be afraid to straighten that out if you need to. And that's about it. I hope this has been helpful. Again, you can get this sheet music at centeredworship.com.